You're listening to the Journey Podcast. How can syncing your well-being goals with the moon's phases empower your journey to health and happiness? Find out more in this episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we embark on a fascinating journey into the realm of manifesting with the moon and its profound influence on our mental health and overall well-being. We explore the intricate dance between the moon's phases and our inner emotional landscape. Our guest, a passionate advocate for harnessing lunar energy, shares invaluable insights into how aligning with the moon can be a powerful tool for self-awareness and personal growth. Kirsten Leo has always been fascinated by the moon and loved watching its phases, gazing at its beauty and exploring the lessons and opportunities she brings us during her cycles. Since working with the moon and her ebbs and flows, Kirsten has understood herself so much more profoundly and harnessed the gifts of the energy that is always swirling around us to help heal and enhance her life. Our thoughts, feelings, emotions, knowledge, visions, intuition, hopes, and dreams are all wrapped up in the energy we're all experiencing together. Once you learn how to harness this energy and use it to enhance yours, you become a magnet for transformation and authentic alignment to everything that will surprise, delight, and support you. Let's meet Kirsten Leo. Hi, Kirsten. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because manifesting with the moon is such a fascinating topic for today's episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm also so excited to be sharing this information with you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's not something we have talked about before on the podcast, so I'm really excited to dive in and explore. So, for starters, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your story and how you came to do what you do today?
Well, it is a long, drawn-out story, but short version is that I, like many people around the world, got to that age, mid-20s, that I really just started questioning everything. I was living in Europe. I was working as a kindergarten teacher, and I loved my profession, but something just never felt quite right. And it wasn't until I moved back to Australia, and when I was 30, I found myself through a series of events in front of a beautiful psychic medium. I didn't know what a psychic medium was, but there I found myself. And she sat me down and very seriously, she said to me, "This is who you are. This is what you're doing. You are a medium and this is what you shall be." And I thought to myself, absolutely not. I had a plan for my life and it did not include the woo-woo world. But over a course of unfortunate events, that early 30s breakup and heartache, I started to lean into my spirituality. I first started to learn to meditate, to sit with energy. And then once I opened my channel and started reading for people, it snowballed from there. So now, mid-40s, I am no longer a teacher. Well, I'm a teacher in a different capacity. I own quite a few businesses, but I am working with people all around the world, really helping them to connect deeply with themselves and their truths. And a big part of that personally for me has always been working with the cycles and the energy of the moon to help me evolve, to help me become empowered in that knowledge of myself, so that for me, nothing is off limits. And I am beyond passionate about sharing that with other people and teaching them how they can be so in tune with themselves as well.
Wow, I love your story and thank you for sharing that. Now, most people, I would assume, have seen the moon and do see it every day or every night in the sky. But what does that mean to actually work with moon energies or to actually align and live with the moon energies? What does that actually mean for people?
Well, the moon energy is not complicated at all. Think of the moon and the sun out there swirling around us on this little rock hurtling through space is really affecting us, as scientists know, magnetically, and it influences life as we know it on Earth. And the best way I like to think about the moon is that the moon is so magnetic and so powerful. It controls the waves of the ocean and the tides. And we are 60% water. So, of course, we're also affected by that energy. Ask any teacher, ask any nurse in an emergency department, and they will be able to tell you without looking into the sky when it's a full moon, when the energy is at its peak, at its most intense. So, as human beings, we are very much connected to this beautiful Mother Earth that we live on. And so working with the moon and to feel into the energies and the ebbs and flows and the cycles is so empowering, because we as living beings also have our ebbs and our flows and our peaks and our troughs and our errors and our cycles. And so when we actually get an understanding of a moon cycle, and we could get that at a really basic level of just knowing when a new moon is or when a full moon is and just working with that, or we could go more deeply like I do with the people that I work with in terms of looking at planetary placements and the influence that they have and their current, I would say, energetic climate or temperature of the time. When you know those not so hushed secrets, we have access to this information. When you know those secrets, you can then start to integrate yourself with them, understand your emotions, understand why you're going through that. And ultimately, it becomes this regular, really easy spiritual practice. And I don't really like to use the word spiritual. I would like to call it like a empowerment or a self-knowledge practice that you can then keep yourself accountable to. A lunar cycle lasts 29.5 days. So every 29.5 days, you go through a whole cycle where you can begin again. And within that cycle, there are certain points in time that we can discuss here where we do specific things around the moon, rituals, if you must. But it's, for me, at a new moon and a full moon, every 29.5 days, it's a moment to stop, to check in with myself, and to really work on, nurture, and nourish the most important human relationship I will ever have, the one with myself.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I feel like we have lost some of that connection that our ancestors had and knew about. I mean, if you look at the moon calendars, they oriented themselves anything from cutting wood and doing the harvest. Everything was kind of looked at through the eyes of when is the moon coming? Where is it in relation to what we're wanting to do? To cutting your fingernails and hair. I've seen in some of the moon calendars, even those are affected by the moon phases. So I feel like we have lost a lot of that knowledge and disconnected from that kind of integration that you were talking about. So, what does that mean to actually use the moon for manifestation? Because you said before we started recording that manifestation actually means something specific to you. So, what is using the moon for manifestation? What does that mean?
So I believe that manifestation is a natural thing that we are constantly always doing. Now, I don't mean to speak out of turn against the industry that I work in and live in, but I'm going to be really honest with your listeners. Anyone that hears the word manifestation, I think hears, I'm going to get something. I'm going to get the relationship, the money, the car, whatever it is. People see manifestation about getting. And one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Dr. Wayne Dyer, says manifestation is not about getting, manifestation is about being. It's about being more. It's about evolving. So the way I work personally and the way I work with other people is to use the cycle of the moon to keep myself accountable to my constant expansion and growth and evolving. And when I do that, when I am on top of that relationship with myself, I know where it is I need to work on. I know which parts of me need to be released in order for me to move forward. I know what I am intending to make manifest. So when you hear the word manifest, I want you to think about that. Make manifest is an action. It's a call to action. And so why wouldn't I? If I've got this tool that is creating the waves of the ocean and the world, who, like you say, has been used by our ancestors, primarily by the men for agricultural purposes, but primarily by the women for intuitive purposes, why wouldn't I use this energy to infuse my evolving process, my becoming? Because once I become, I naturally align, or in inverted commas, get what is perfect for me. We can't manifest or make manifest things that aren't in vibrational or energetic alignment with us. So by working with the moon, we're on top of that evolving, on top of that purifying, tweaking, and expansion of our vibrational alignment. So the getting just happens naturally. I don't need to think about that in my life. I don't intend to get anything. I intend to be, and the perfect things just flow. It's such a natural process.
And the way that you're explaining that also kind of makes me feel like the moon is almost a healing tool for ourselves to realign and to find that authenticity and what is good for us. So it is almost feels like we could use this as a healing tool as well. So let's talk a little bit about what happens during these moon cycles. So you said 29.5 days for, is that full moon to full moon or new moon to new moon? I guess it's the same for both of them.
Okay, yes. Let me break it down. Okay, so I'll give you the 101 version. There is a lot more complexities to it, but this is all you really need to know. A moon cycle begins at a new moon, so not at a full moon. People think it's a full moon. The reason why we are attracted to a full moon is A, because we can see it, it's very beautiful, but B, because even if you have no idea about energetics, everyone can kind of feel it, right? Everyone knows when everyone's a bit on edge and it's a bit crazy out there. But the moon cycle actually begins at a new moon. And so the new moon is basically when we can't see the moon, because between the earth and the sun, it is blocked. So it's the dark side of the moon. It's very dark and deep. We see that as an introverted time. So at a new moon, traditionally, we will set intentions. Think of it like soil. What we do by working through the cycles of the moon, we're constantly toiling our soil, making sure our lives are nutrient dense, that we are authentic, we are aligned, all those things. And so at a new moon, every 29.5 days, we set intentions. So we plant a seed in that deep, dark, hopefully very nourished soil of our lives. Intention setting, I could go on forever, but I will say very briefly, intentions are not wishes. So we don't sit under the darkness of a new moon and wish for things. I intend to earn enough money to buy that house. I intend to go on that date. No. Intentions are calls to action. I intend. So it's something that you promise yourself. Okay, I know what I want. I feel what I desire. So what am I doing to align with that? I intend. I intend to look after my physical body, to feel vibrant enough to be around other people and in their company. I intend to give myself a dedicated time every day this month to work on my passion project. That, like I say, we don't need to worry about the outcome because that's guaranteed, might bring me the money. So that's what we do at a new moon. And roughly 2 weeks later is the full moon. So what happens at a full moon? The full light of the moon is shining on Earth. So we see that as a time where everything is illuminated. You cannot hide under the light of a full moon. And what the moon is doing at that point, at that peak point, which is why people will feel tension energetically or emotionally, same thing, at that point, is because it's shining a light on everything that is not aligned with our intentions, with where we want to go. So it could be, oh, I'm really not breaking those bad habits. Oh, I say I want this great relationship, but I'm behaving like someone who is in this type of relationship. I would really love to move forward and on from that career, but I'm desperate to work out of fear. So it shines a light on everything that isn't serving us and in alignment with our intentions. Sometimes it shines a light on the intentions that we set, and we begin to see, oh, I set that out of fear or ego. So that's a lot of work that we do under the full moon as well, which is why I completely agree with you, exactly what you said. This is a healing practice. It is a cyclical healing practice because you can't evolve from what you haven't healed. And so that full moon opportunity to sit deeply with ourselves, to reflect and to write down the things that we again intend to release and to let go. And as part of that ritual, I will burn it, release it, and give myself permission to not move forward with it. It is something that you have to action for sure. It is something that you have to keep yourself accountable to. But just in another 2 weeks, I'm at a new moon again, ready to begin the cycle again, to see where am I at with that intention? Is that something I want to intend again? Or is it something else now that I have a clearer vision of myself because I'm in that deep connected relationship with my truth, not of who I want to be or who I hope to be or who I fantasize about being, but the truth of who I'm being. And from there, that is where you are so powerful. That is where you can take your healing and really make the most of it. That is when you can work with people like you, work with a lot of amazing healers in many different modalities to work on the stuff that comes up as a result of knowing yourself so, so well. I'm not sure about you, but I find that many people will come just wanting answers. They just want the solution. They just want to know everything's going to be okay. And I just think, oh, what a shame, because there's so much missed opportunity here for you to really be okay, to make your life the dream that you imagine for yourself. And one of my favorite all-time quotes is Henry David Thoreau, go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you've imagined. You can't do that if you're holding on to all the stuff that we pick up along the way. And so working with the moon is just that. It's a cyclical, beautiful, soft, sacred, but fun way to check in with myself twice a month at those points. Now, of course, we teach on the moon membership, we take into account what planets, what they're doing, what's influencing them. We look at astrology, Western astrology as well. So it can get a lot more complicated than that. But really, that's all you need to know. At a new moon, we intend. At a full moon, we release. And it is about holding that space for the relationship that you have with yourself and holding yourself accountable to creating your manifestations, not just wishing and hoping for them.
Yeah, I love that. Especially when we talk about also the law of attraction, there was always this missing component of action. So I like the idea that you're saying you have to action on something. It's not just going to come here by wishing for it. So that's perfect.
If I could ban the word manifestation, I would, but I realize that I can't because everyone knows it. But I'm on a crusade. Maybe I'm on a little private crusade of replacing the word manifestation with alignment. Because once you understand the energetics of the law of attraction, the law of resonance, all of those amazing, or the 7 spiritual laws, you understand that it has nothing to do with a wish and has nothing to do with about getting stuff. And it's got everything to do with who are you willing, prepared to show up as? And that is where you're going to live, you know?
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for explaining that. And I hope that for our listeners also, that kind of illuminates a little bit about the manifestation process and how they can integrate that with the moon phases. Now, is there anything that people should be doing? So when we're breaking this down, so we're intending at the new moon, and then we have some time until the full moon comes. Is there anything that we should be doing during that period from the new moon to the full moon? Are there any little actions that we can take or things that you recommend that people do during that period from the new moon to the full moon?
For sure. So that is called like the waxing and the waning phases of the moon. So, energetically speaking, once we plant the seeds of intent, it is a time to take action for sure, but tentatively. It's like you don't put a seed in the ground and then start pulling on it in the hopes that it will come up, right? It's not going to happen immediately. So, from the lead up from the new moon to the full moon, it is a wonderful time to sit and observe yourself. Like, how am I really showing up in alignment with this intention? And because what you want to do is you want to notice, what are your blocks? What are your blind spots? Because that's what we're going to heal at the full moon. So once that light is there and we release it, then we can get into a little bit of action after that, because the action will be more potent and aligned because we've just released. So we take action in both the waxing and the waning phase, but we just take it a little bit differently. So I would say the lead up to the full moon is like curiosity, taking action, just being really curious about what that brings up for you. And then after the full moon, it's like taking action that is well informed. Oh, I understand that about me. I'm more focused. And then when it comes up to the new moon again, we start to wind down because we're going into that dark phase. We're going within. So if you think about the new moon as being really dark, it gets brighter, brighter, brighter. So the action will kind of increase. And then it's that peak point of the full moon. And then the action will decrease. But ultimately, what you do will also be affected by the planets that are happening at that time. So say, for example, Mercury happens to be in retrograde. Well, you're probably not going to go, write a doctorate or sign a major document without a lot of input, just because the energy might be a little bit off. So that's why we go into that on the moon membership. But generally speaking, it is about action, but it's also about that delicate dance we have with allowing. So we can't be constantly in action, 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 create, 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 go get, do. We can't constantly be in that energy. We also have to be in allowance, to dance, to flirt, to have fun with the ebbs and flows of the universe, because each of us are affected by the magnetic pull or the illumination of the moon. So is everyone else. So everyone else is having this experience too. So a lot of the times people will be trying to manifest or intend for themselves to align with, or to become the energy and the vibration that aligns with a new job, a new partner, or whatever it is that they want. And that depends on other people. So we have to also allow a lot of space and grace for other people, because they might not be ready to dance with us. It might not be available yet. And it's just an opportunity to, again, observe and like dial up your potency in terms of alignment for what you want, because it just is not available to you yet. So it's a healing tool. It's a connection tool with self, but it's also a really beautiful and graceful connection tool with others.
Yeah, I love how you explain that. And it is a good point. We have to allow for the energy of other people also in that mix of things that we are addressing. Yeah. Now, the full moon cycle through different sun signs throughout the year. So we might hear, full moon in Leo or full moon in Gemini. So how does that affect us? Does the energy of the full moon actually change throughout the year then? Or how does that affect us?
Yes, absolutely. So a full moon, for example, will sit in the opposite sun sign. So it will come with that flavor, because remember, the sun is shining a light on the moon. So it turns up with the sun sign of the opposite of where it is on that Western astrological wheel. So it will come with that spice, with that flavor, with that energy, with that essence. And so, for example, we might be having a full moon in Gemini. Gemini is all about the mind. Gemini loves to think and weigh it up and be very analytical. Gemini is great at communication, but the downside of Gemini, if we're going to shine a light on it, is that it can overthink and it can think its way into and out of anything. And so at a full moon in Gemini, for example, you might be really focusing on releasing internal dialogue that isn't in alignment with your intentions or the person that you are curating in your empowerment to be. So yes, each new moon, so the new moon will happen in the sign in which it sits, and then the full moon will happen in the opposite side. So you will be working with that energy of that, I mean, we call it zodiac, but of the planetary placements as well, because in that scope, all the planets are also moving all around and affecting what's going on as well. For example, late in 2023, we've had a really teaming up of Mars and the Sun at a full moon, and they just caused havoc because Mars just loves to rock the boat and just loves to be very boisterous in its energy and like, let's go get it. And like, let's do it. And like, don't ask for permission. We'll do it. And if we need forgiveness, we'll ask for it then type energy. And the Sun's like, yeah. So together they're like the two naughty kids on the schoolyard. And then you have the full moon in Gemini that's saying, excuse me, but I just need to overanalyze everything and I'm risk averse and I just need to overthink it. And so all of that played into, where are we really holding ourselves back in a dialogue, in our thoughts, in our perceptions, where we're not being adventurous, but we're not going to be so adventurous that we throw caution to the wind. We're still going to use our analytical mind, but really let's just see what we need to release in that relationship. That's a tiny little example.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a Gemini also. So as you're talking about
you're a
that,
Gemini?
I'm just chuckling. So that's perfect. Describes me to a T. Yeah.
That's so funny. And I mean, on the Light Path Collective, we have an astrologist that does this work. But once you know also your sun, moon, and rising, you'll also then be able to work really effectively with the moon as well, because within your own, fingerprint or imprint of, your personality or your energy, how that will affect you. So again, it's just self-knowledge, and knowledge is power, right?
Yeah. Also, the self-discovery aspect of working with the moon can really help you, like you said, discover those things that are holding you back, the things that are maybe putting you in patterns that aren't very good for you. And then you have the ability to recognize that and release those things. So, yeah, wonderful, wonderful tool. Now, you also offer programs, services, ways for people to work with you. Do you want to go over some of those and let our listeners know how they could connect with you if they've been inspired by this episode and they want to know more?
Well, if we have piqued your interest, I have the easiest way where you can work with me. I offer a moon membership via the Light Path Collective. If you go there, you'll see it. And it's a moon membership where you get 30 days free. So hop on, come play with us. For 30 days, you're going to go through a full moon and a new moon cycle so you can see what it's like. But what it really is me providing you with information. So there's 2 tiers to this membership, but ultimately, let's just say you're a premium member, you will get a podcast style, me talking through the energy of the moon, what we're focusing on. And with that, I also give you a guided meditation. And for those of you that think that they can't meditate, it's literally lie there and listen to it. Let's just throw all that we can't meditate out the window. Meditation is, you could be listening to it going for a walk. So you get that, but then you also get a workbook. And in that workbook, it's very detailed. And so you get that written synopsis, you get the moon phases. I write out a ritual for you to do at the full new moon. So you get all of this at every full moon and every new moon. So you get a written ritual guide. Basically, I write out what I'm going to do. And there's that. And then you get journal prompts for each new and full moon in that workbook. You get affirmations and you get invocations, and they're always woven into the ritual. What you don't get, and I want to be really clear about this and intentional about this, what you don't get is access to me live. So a lot of people will hold moon circles online and things like that. And that's great. I love that. But the reason I don't do that is because I believe that you are the master creator of your life. You don't need to sit with me. You need to take actually responsibility for doing this for yourself and keep yourself accountable to it. Because if you're relying on someone else to keep you accountable to it, then you're not actually really committed to evolving in this way. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but I just want to be really transparent as to why I do that. So some of our members might not hop on every month because they don't feel drawn to it that month. And that's totally fine. But it's at such a low price point that you can do that. And for the low price point that it is, plus it's in Australian dollars. So if you are anywhere else in the world, you're already ahead, except if you're in New Zealand, maybe. But it's really cheap just so you can dip in and out. So 30 days free, hop on, see what it's all about, and just get like really curious. You can find me at thelightpathcollective.com. It is a suite of lots of different practitioners, but I offer my services there in intuitive mentoring or psychic medium readings, lots of energy healing. I'm a Reiki master, so I do that as well. So you can find me there as well. Oh, and my podcast. I forgot the podcast.
I was just going to say that. And Kirsten also has her own podcast called the Light Path Podcast with Kirsten Leo. So you can listen in from your favorite podcast provider to her episodes and find out a bit more of what is going on with the Light Path Collective. And we will also be linking to all of Kirsten's offerings in the show notes as well. So you can check there for the links to the membership and the socials, of course, and how you can get a hold of her if you'd like to work with her. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed the journey into manifesting with the moon as much as I have. What an enlightening conversation this has been, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on the moon and the moon phases with our listeners. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Kirsten, for your time today.
What an honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Take care, Kirsten.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.